Let's talk about passwords for a couple of minutes. Passwords are clearly very important to keep your data safe in the applications you use, but the guidance about what types of passwords are the most secure has evolved in the last few years. I was recently reading an article from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, and it was interesting to find that they no longer think that password complexity is nearly as important as password length. Oftentimes with password complexity, you can have a short password where people add the number 1 at the end and maybe an exclamation point, which is actually still relatively easy to guess and is more susceptible to brute force attacks. When you add more length to a password, that becomes considerably more difficult for brute force attacks. And so I wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing at ProShop and talk a little bit about that guidance on passwords. So I'm looking here at the security tab within our config area, and I have a number of controls. You can pause this and read through these if you'd like. The first one I want to mention is the maximum allowed unsuccessful login attempts. If your system that you're using today does not have a maximum number, or it's not configurable by you, it's conceivable that a brute force attack could try hundreds or thousands of times to guess passwords and eventually get into your system. So we do have control over that. You can set it to be a reasonable number of times where a typical user can get in if they forgot something or had a typo or had cap locks on, but a brute force attack would not. Down at the bottom here, where we talk about password validation rules, ProShop does have some pre-configured schemes, which you can choose from, including the CMMC. But if we choose our custom scheme, then we have these additional config options. So this one in particular, password length, minimum length, is something that you can set in your system. So you could set it for 15 or 20 or however many characters you want. That does allow spaces as well. So if people want to put in a password phrase with a space in between the words or without spaces, either would be acceptable. And if you want to add additional layers of complexity, including uppercase, lowercase, special characters, numbers, you can do that. We also can turn on a check for the 100,000 most common passwords, and those won't be allowed. And you can additionally add things like not allowing the username in the password, or a special list of words particular to your company, like your company name or your address. So these are some of the things we've put in place over the last year or so at ProShop to try to help make sure our clients stay safe. And of course, it goes without saying, we also offer two-factor authentication, in our case, particularly with physical hardware keys. So even if your password does get hacked, you have a phishing attack on an employee and they let the password out, without that second hardware key, no hacker is going to get into your system regardless. So if the system you are using today does not support those things, then very likely you will not be compliant to the CMMC standard, and you might lose that work, or you might have to find a new system. And we'd be very happy to talk to you about that. So if you'd like to learn more, please reach out.